and welcome to Down the Alley. This is PMAC.
And Ted T.S. Spirides.
And Katie.
The season finale. The Last Dance.
Season 3.
Season
Or
4. With a COVID year.
I know. I feel like
so
we
season
should
5? Do we get credit?
Well, I think we should say season 3 because then it's even with the number year it is. Like it's 2023. So
but this is our 5th year being podcasters.
Well, it's our 5th year, but I feel like it's really our official like 3rd year.
Regardless, however long we've been doing this. Well, what a season. Obviously, we're gonna dive into the Last Dance, but just to like exhale, what a season. And how about the year of the upset? Like, kind of now that I've like come back down to earth, I don't even remember podcasting last week. I don't really remember my life last week. I think I had tacos with Katie one of the nights, and we fought about if the week was fun or not.
Yeah, we did. That was
and Kepner agreed. Coach Kep agreed. It's not fun.
That's
State week is not fun.
If he wins or if he listens.
Yeah, I have before we get into the scores, yeah, obviously fantastic season. You're the upset, crazy games, but I kind of have, I don't know if this is a hot take. It's just a take on the state tournament. We know that we want to move venues. We know that we want a better venue.
I like Stillwater.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen unless some big time intervention with people that have influence and power and money will make it happen on their dime. But I would love to see the state tournament go Thursday, Friday, Saturday versus Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Like just mimic like how they do it for every other sport, I feel like. And if you can play 3 hockey games in a row, you can play 3 lacrosse games in a row, or 3 basketball games or whatever, and make the quarterfinals all day Thursday, and then the semis are on Friday and the finals on Saturday, like it always is. And I was talking to a few people, and I got some emails to the Down the Alley email account we talked about fan presence, right? Well, like Moorhead, for example, they have to go 4 nights in a hotel. I doubt they went down and back for every game. Maybe they did, and correct me if I'm wrong, Moorhead fans and coaches, if you did just go down and back for every game. But they have 4 nights in a hotel. If they end up going, and they did this year, they ended up going all the way to Saturday. You got Elk Rivers and the Andovers and the Chisago Lakes. I mean, it's not that far of a drive, but like it's in Section 7, you could have a Duluth team. And people like parents are working, so like and coaches are working too, for Christ's sake, right? So it's like a Tuesday 1 p.m. game and then a Thursday 3 p.m. game. It's like you're not going to get the best fan draw because it's the middle of the week. Like, I mean, my life is lacrosse, my job is lacrosse, and I couldn't even watch the streams most of the state tournament. I was busy. I had a million things going on. And so my hot take is the state tournament should be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I think it would be a better experience for everybody.
I think that's a really good take. I think that's it's like any other tournament is 2 or 3 days in a row. Like you sometimes play multiple games, not high school regulation games, but you play 3 games in a normal tournament setting normally. But I think that's right. I like the venue is definitely a thing. I think Pony Stadium in and of itself is awesome and accommodates parking. It accommodates all the fans. Terrible concessions, but like whatever. White Bear Lake wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, and I think I talked this, but like it is kind of hard. I like having the boys and the girls together, that's for sure, but I agree that maybe just kind of like the organization of it and maybe making something a little more central. I'm wondering if like those northern suburb teams, are they closer than like Prior Lake? Like I could get out a map. I really could.
Probably.
It's
the other thought would be like do it at Concordia, St. Paul
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Stadium. You know,
Seafoam Stadium.
yeah. So nonetheless, we still find a way to make it work. But that was kind of going off of PMAX and yours thought of like state tournament week should be exciting and fun, but when you're in it,
Yeah.
it's hard to be saying you're having fun because it is like
It's growing.
everybody else has moved on with their life and gone into club season, gone into summer hockey, gone into AAU basketball, and here you're trying to prepare for the biggest games of your season at Tuesday at 11 a.m. So I understand. So that's why I brought up that hot take.
And like parents have to take off work. Like, I mean, if your kid is supposedly going to state, you got to like take PTO. I think that's just hard. Like you said, we do this for a living, and it's still hard to make it to all those games. And just kind of, there's something very anticlimactic about playing a really big game at 1:00 in the afternoon. I have to say it.
And yeah, I mean, so kind of to parlay on that, the state tournament ends up being a test of mental toughness and just like being able to stay focused and keep your team focused through, you know, that week. And something that came up in the Discord too, of the difference between a team that has been there multiple times and understands all the little things of, you're going to get bombarded by MSHSL people when you get off the bus on the first day, to be like, you know, they're checking under the seats. They're checking under the cushion, make sure you didn't bring some player in from Maryland. They're making sure that the roster's correct, you know, that make sure you don't have any funny stuff in the cooler. Like it's like,
Make sure you only have one cooler. Don't have too many coolers.
How many managers do you have? Like, it's a huge ordeal, and that can be stressful and like overwhelming for a team that has never been there before. As far as I know, there is no itinerary given to you from the MSHSL of like all the things that you're going to be hit with by them and just the whole ordeal of the state tournament. So tip of the cap to the teams that came in, were prepared, and played their best lacrosse in the biggest week of their season. And it was year of the upset. We had two massive upsets. We talked about them a little bit. We had teams of destiny this year. We had teams of, you know, not necessarily, how do I articulate this? Teams that maybe you wouldn't expect to go home with some hardware, went home with some hardware. Teams that you wouldn't expect to give teams a game, gave teams a game. And it wasn't just blowout central like it is sometimes in the state tournament. You know, I don't know where we want to take this. Obviously, you know, we'll talk about the champions. We've talked about some of the games, but you know, what was one thing, like your one moment of the whole week? Like, what was the biggest thing for each of you? Like one takeaway.
Katie, go ahead.
I didn't play in state.
Yeah, you were there a lot though. You were watching the games. You were in the stands.
First,
because I want to think about my answer.
I think our answer is going to be the same.
Okay,
ladies first. Ladies first.
For me, it was Prior Lake beating Benilde, and on the boys' side, I think that for this whole 2 years, the Discord, I felt like all conversations always went back to Benilde boys. We could be talking about Edina girls, and somehow we started talking about Benilde boys. And then when we would talk about them nicely, it wasn't nice enough. And then when we would say one little thing about our opinions about Benilde boys, all of a sudden then we're the worst people on earth, because how dare us talk so ill of such a fantastic team. It felt like constantly we were talking about them. And it's like, and we have Coach on the podcast and we're talking about, you know, post Coach. It just felt like they were like almost like a thorn in my side. And I'm not even a part of the boys' side of the game. And to me, as a fan, so the minute we lose, and I said it, after we lose the section final, I had to like wipe my tears, pick up the pieces of my car crash, and go and be a wife. And I think that's something we've actually been asked that since, of like, how do you guys deal with it? And the truth is we don't. I mean, we do, but like, so that emotion of the game last year, to me, and I'm a little woo woo, to me, it felt like the stars were aligning because the Prior Lake Benilde game was just a little kitty wampus. It wasn't the championship. It was the semifinal. It wasn't at Stillwater on that sacred ground, really, where you win or you lose. It becomes sacred ground. It was at White Bear Lake High School, where I've never been there in my life. It was a 5 o'clock game. Like it just seemed a little left of center, that it needed to happen. And it was good vibes only. And you said it was good vibes after practice. Prior Lake, whether you think they should have been there or not, they earned a spot. They made it happen. Whereas the Prior Lake girls should have been there. We didn't make it happen. We lost. And so I think the serendipity of them getting to state and then having this big semifinal game and then winning was just like such a cherry on top of like a matchup that should be the championship, but that's why we play the game. It didn't end up like that. It was a semifinal. And I just think that was so kind of like, it was just a really cool moment that it was such a big game, but yet it wasn't. And like PMAC literally said, we didn't win. And we did go sit at tacos. And I was like, I know the hype, and the text messages, it is stressful. I'm stressed. I know what practice is like the day before. And then we sat at tacos. We're closing the place down. The poor guy wants to go home. And we're arguing about how I was like, okay, we can have a little fun now. And he's like, no, it's not. And I was like, but you won. And like trying to be like, live in this moment. You know, the coach and us all are like, we could win 100-0 against the best team. And there's still something I always do improve on, that I was kind of craving that like little moment of like, yay, you know, like a little bit like a little fist pump, but that's all it was. It was a little fist pump. And then you had to turn around and go. But that little bit of a moment of just like, reference Harry Potter when the little charms teacher kind of gives a fist pump in the midst of the end scene. If you're a Potter fan, you know what I'm talking about. Like, it was that moment. I think it was the little win we needed. It was a little win as like a coaching staff, a little win as a program to Prior Lake. And I actually had someone say to me this morning, I don't think they're a listener. Their kid plays on a different team that was not a part of state. And she came to my yoga class and she said, my son said that would have been enough for me to just know that I beat them. And it was a great game. It was fun. It was like the culmination of the tip of the iceberg. And we knew one team had to win. And for me, I think it was just really cool to see the outcome and like almost that awe of like, holy crap, they just won. And like, it was huge. It was huge. It was really cool. And for me, it was fun. The next days weren't very fun, but for that moment, that night, it was fun. And it was a really cool moment to be a fan in the stand.
It was as an outsider, it was kind of an, you know, obviously an upset. I don't know if you want to call it that. You know, it's hard to really put Prior Lake as an underdog in any situation over the last, 10 years. But I mean, definitely crazy. PMAC, you've had some time to think. I don't know if you feel the same way about the whole situation, or if your takeaway is something not even involving your own team.
Can you just re-say the question? I
I
know
guess
it's been a minute since the question was actually asked. I was comprehending what Katie was saying. I was trying to think of what I want to say. So can you just restate the question for me?
And it probably wasn't it was very ambiguous question, but I guess it's like, yes, we can sit here and analyze and talk about the finals and the two games and the consolations and all these games, but like, just looking back on the state tournament in general, like what was one thing where, and maybe you don't have an answer because you were so ingrained in being there as a coach and you weren't worried about anything else. Was there any like takeaway that you're gonna remember from state tournament 2023 of just all the games? Like maybe it's, you know, a kid playing with a punctured lung. I don't know what it is. I have mine if you want me to go.
No, I'll go for, I can go. And you're asking me for one, and you said maybe you don't have one, and it's the opposite of that. There's hundreds. Like you're just so in the moment. There's just so many things that go on, things that, can't be said on a podcast, things that can be, things that, are more private, or, more just like with your team, or just little things that, you want to hold for ammo later, for another coach, whatever. But every day it was something, every game it was something, at the state tournament and state tournament week, when, you win a game, sweet. You go have tacos with your wife, you get in a fight, but then on Thursday, she's like, you know what? You are right. Before the Benilde game, you are right. And it isn't fun. This is serious. And then, you're
as someone who's also married, the you are right. That's a bigger win than the Benilde win. I feel like that's a bigger upset. That's a bigger upset.
He brought it up later. He was like, you said I was right. And I was like, I said that. Like, because the next day it's like, holy shit.
That might be that. Well, and if that, I didn't get that, that gave Thursday a whole nother energy for the Benilde game, getting the you're right text, first one in a couple years of being married, so I'm going to hang on to that one for a while. Right. The moment, like the one thing, and I don't know, maybe this will be a great answer. Maybe it'll be an awful answer. I'm not sure. I think the biggest thing for me, 2023 state tournament was kind of the conversation the next day after the Benilde win. Yeah, the Benilde, win is huge and people are losing their minds. And it was probably, unless you were a Benilde fan, you were probably rooting for Prior Lake, and you probably didn't expect that game to go the way it did. Cool, great, wonderful. Obviously a win we're all pumped about, but it was the conversation we had in the locker room watching film the next day. It's like, okay, like, and this is part of why this week is not fun. We don't get to just, oh, we beat Benilde, yay. Like, we had to remind everybody, and it's easy for the coaches to say, hey, we got one more game. Like, but that's the conversation. Like, Benilde wasn't the end game. They were just in the way. They were in the way of the ultimate goal of what we were trying to achieve. Obviously we were one play, 1 inch, 1 goal short in an electric game that we'll get into, here shortly. But, that kind of conversation, that moment, that mentality, I think was, really what we had for probably a month. Like, hey, we're 1-4, we need 1. Okay, let's get one more. And we just had kind of a one more mentality, up until literally the last quarter / overtime. We needed one more goal. We needed to tie the game, and we got it. We needed one more to win it. And we were just literally, we were 1 short. So I guess that's I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I don't think there's a right or wrong. And I think people who listen that don't coach or aren't involved in it will gain a lot of insight from both of your answers of like what that week is like. And it's hard to celebrate your wins sometimes if it's not the ultimate goal. You gotta, and you have to be able to get over a loss and get over a win at the same speed. Like, obviously, in the playoffs, it's an off season that's going to motivate you, but in the regular season too, you drop when you're not supposed to or whatever. It's like, well, we got one tomorrow. We have to move on. So I think that's a good takeaway. I think for me, and kind of where maybe this question originated from, was I look at the champs, the Lakeville North Panthers on the boys side, the Benilde St. Margaret's Red Knights on the girls' side, and we talked about teams of destiny, and it kind of felt like and this is not gonna. I know I'm gonna get blasted for this because they're gonna say you're taking away from the player's skill level, right? But it felt like those two teams, it whenever something was about to go wrong, the lax gods were on their side, and it just, I mean, we talked about the Cardiac Cats all regular season, but
Yeah.
the Lakeville North Panthers were the playoff version of the Cardiac Cats.
And just to give them credit, they were the original Electric Factory of this season.
Original Electric Factory, and I feel like there were so many moments in the playoffs where I was like, I think they're gonna lose, and they didn't. They just were a gritty bunch, and I'll get to them again in a second. But I kind of felt the same way about Benilde girls.
Think about how little we ever talked about them.
So we didn't talk
We
about them much.
never talked about
had-
the Benilde
They
girls.
had some, they got kind of crushed by some good teams. They had some nice wins. They weren't overly dominating anybody all season, and then it was just like the playoffs started. Team of
They're
Destiny,
never in our DMs being like, you need to hype us up.
they just found a way to win games, and then it was like we're leading, and then they're not leading, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, the other team's gonna finally kind of run away with it, but then they find a way to take the lead back, and they don't ask you how, they just ask you how many, and they found a way to score more goals than the other team scored. And I feel like both Lakeville and Benilde girls, Lakeville boys and Benilde girls, kind of just had that mojo, the special stuff that you need in the playoffs where you just need a bounce. And it's unsung heroes, it's bounces, it's plays, it's pipes, it's all the little things. And that was my takeaway of this postseason. It was just that you can put two teams on paper and put them side by side, and you can say whatever you want to say about the matchups and the blah, 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 blah. But out of nowhere comes a guy who's nobody knew his name even 8 weeks into the season, and he's the guy. He's the hero, Nathan Long. He's no longer number 7, as Mitch said. He's no longer number 7. He's Nathan Long, because the guy goes and wins the semifinal in OT, and then he goes and wins the final in OT. And you have 100 Piscatellos on that team, and you have Austin Winship, and you have all these guys, right? And it was the 6th guy that went out and was the guy. And that's what I love about playoffs. And that's the same thing in every sport, right? Sometimes it's the 5th wide receiver that scores the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. It's not the number one. So that was my takeaway.
Let's just play off of your takeaway and just go into the finals. We're already talking about it. The boys finals, Prior Lake versus Lakeville North, obviously. You're talking about Nathan Long, what an electric player, obviously gets the game winner. But before that, let's go back to your take. You may or may not have watched the game. I don't know. Did you watch it?
I saw about the last 10 minutes of the game.
Okay. So to kind of go off of your point, you think Lakeville North's dead. Prior Lake has a great start. Vibes are great. Boys are buzzing. Things are going well. It turns into 3-0. And it's like, like Lakeville North, is probably I would assume they're thinking, and we're just throwing coal in the train and we're going downhill right now. That's how I was feeling. Like, okay, let's go, but let's keep her rolling. And then you've got this stinking, I think he's got about every award this year, player of the year, this, network player of the year, that newspaper, I can't keep them straight. And there's a reason for it. Quinn Power just starts going on an absolute tear. He starts winning faceoffs. He puts the team on his back and really solidifies, why he is the player of the year, according to all of these networks. I think he earned that award and proved why he got those awards in this one. I think he lost 3 faceoffs, 2 were violations, and 1 was because his stick broke in half. So, the kid absolutely dominated. I don't know how many goals he got that game, but a couple of times it was like we would, go on a little bit of a run or gain momentum back. And there, Quinn Power just is like, nope, we're going to get the momentum right back from you. I'm going to win this face off and go score or go make a play or something. So, that kid literally caused a lot of problems for the Lakers and I think was a huge reason why they did so well in the final game.
Yeah, I mean, an absolute. I don't know if I could have handled coaching Lakeville North. I feel like I would have had 10 years taken off my life. Just the way that they played. They just were, again, they were an electric factory. I mean, there's probably days you felt like we're never going to lose We're going to win every game by 10 goals. And then in the playoffs, they had a lot of tight games and they were like, what the hell is going on? I don't know how Kevin is still upright, to be honest with you. I'm sure it was crazy, but I do want to.
I told him after the game, I'm like, you're going to quit now, right? Just start first year start on the top and then be done.
I do want to tip the cap to the Lakers though. And I know you probably won't do this because it's your own team and whatever, but a team that a lot of people decided that, yeah, we're just going to write off, they're a 3 seed in the section. They're 1-4. They're a 4 seed in state. It's not going to happen. And once again, the Lakers are in the final. And I know, in the locker room, it's probably, we didn't reach the ultimate goal of what we, I want to achieve. And that is what it is. And that's between, your team. But a lot of games that, that was a revenge tour for you guys because a lot of the teams you played in the playoffs, you played in the regular season, and they got theirs in the regular season, and they celebrated. Hey, we beat Prior Lake. We've arrived.
That's funny that you said revenge tour. I didn't ever say that to you. I don't believe that was kind of the motto from Coach Cap.
You did not say that.
Yeah, that was kind of our motto. Going into playoffs was Revenge Tour 2023.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I mean, you can stack regular season wins on your trophy shelf or whatever, or you can stack postseason wins. And obviously a couple of the teams that beat the Lakers in the regular season also had great runs in the state tournament. South Suburban was great in the playoffs in general. But
one quick comment on that. We were 1 goal away from having 4 teams in the state tournament. So I know we've been called out for South Suburban bias. Maybe that's why. Yeah. Maybe that's why down the alley trolls.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, great final. Like I said, I only saw the very end of the game, but it seemed like it was just. It was everything you could have asked for in the final, and the semis were great too. And so the teams that really, I think, should have been there at the end were. Congrats to Lakeville North. They've had a great squad for the last few years. They were 3rd place 2 years ago. Last year, decimated by some injuries and just didn't really hit their stride. And I think they kind of felt like this was their year to prove, like, no, we actually are one of the top teams, and they certainly finished their job, and a lot of great players that are going to go on and do great things, and they get some guys back next year too, so they will be a mainstay. Onto the girls again. I didn't see the game, but it seemed like one team was up, then the other team was up. It was back and forth, and just when you think, oh, hey, Dinah's the better team, they're going to run away with it, here comes Benilde. And they just decide that it's our time, and we're gonna make the one play that we need to make when we need to make it. And it came down to the wire, and they were able to get the championship. I don't, Katie, did you watch the game? Okay,
Yeah, I
so
was
maybe
there.
give any quick analysis of what you saw.
Yeah, I think my personal opinion was like, gall darn, I've been like sleeping on this team. But I think I'm sleeping on them because they're spread out. Like they don't have just like they have a lot of like insane players. They don't have just like the one. Whereas I feel like that's actually kind of like Lakeville North boys, where you could kind of depend on a couple of their starters. I mean, Charlize Vang, the all three of them were playing, but like 3 goals. But Maggie Graycheck actually stood out to me the most. Her goals, in my opinion, were like the energy shifters, where she, even though score wise, scored 2-3 goals, like whatever, that's a normal amount for you. No one scored like all 11 goals, but like her goals for some reason were those moments that like they needed to get that goal, or they were losing the game. They were losing the game, and she hit her 3 goals in like really pertinent times that really shifted the energy of the game, I feel like. I'm pretty sure Edina was up and Benilde came back to win.
That is correct.
And I just think that alone, like by a couple goals, I think that alone is a really big testament to the attitudes. And like we said, it is mental toughness. And I think being able to like snap into the game and not hang your head when you're down a couple goals in the state championship, that, like you said, is kind of that team of destiny. And just like people we really never really talked about. Yeah, we talked about them, but like I think it just, what really struck me was how dependable everyone on the field was for them. And then Maggie really making some insane moments out of the game that clearly she is someone they all look up to, because it just shifted everything else. Huge goaltending is probably what I took away the most too. I don't know if I can say this, but I was on the All-Tourney selection committee, and I mean there's like a lot of us, so I have very little pull, but we battled with which goalie, and like there was talk about putting both of them on there, because we're like, what, has this ever happened before? Can we put 2 goalies on the All-Tourney roster, just because of their like just the biggest piece of the puzzle on both ends of the field were both of those goaltenders. And pretty sure Brooke was also up for, were they both up for Miss Goalie, obviously. Gosh, it already feels like so long ago. But I just think that those two also stood on their head and really made the shifts of the game noticeable. Like big saves, changing the course of direction, throwing energy off, throwing momentum off, kind of making the save they shouldn't. That's what makes them really stand out. I think it's really, it was really impressive.
Yeah. No, I think there's some interesting stat lines. Benilde won the draw control battle 13-9. So I think that maybe was a factor in the second half. Both goalies had I think it said Brooke Nelson had 13 saves. 9 saves. And Uma Cornea had 6 saves. And so pretty close there. But yeah, I mean, obviously a super tight game. It was 6-5 Edina at half, and Benilde ended up winning the second half 6-4 to win the game 11-10.
Same score for both the boys and the girls. Isn't that kind of weird?
Yeah, so very interesting. Again, tip of the cap to the champions, but also want to shout out The other teams that won some hardware, Elk River Zimmerman girls with the consolation winning 11-9 over
I
East.
also saw that game, and that was like they dominated that game. It was an awesome game.
They've been kind of hanging around the last couple of years, and they get to bring home some hardware. Maybe they did in the past, but solid team there. Lakeville South ended up winning third place over Stillwater 17-9. On the boys side, Benilde St. Margaret's boys third place over Shakopee 10-8, and Moorhead winning consolation 12-6 over Chisago Lakes. So
it was fun. The Benilde boys team, pretty sure their boss brought them to the girls' state championship to obviously cheer on their teammates or their classmates rather. So the boys lacrosse team was in the stands for Benilde girls as they won, which I'm pretty sure the bus brought them over because I saw them all walking in, which is kind of cool. Smaller school, that was really cool to see that connection between the boys and the girls programs, and just cheer on your classmates. And we know what it feels like, so that was fun to see.
And to kind of wrap up, maybe it's just me. This is more of a boys' take because I don't know the girls' rosters as closely, but I do feel like a lot of the top players in the state tournament were not seniors.
I agree.
Underclassmen. So I'll be interested to see if some of these teams reload and are back next year. And
I always think that conversation is funny of like, oh, we're going to be so bad next year, of like, oh, we're losing everybody. And it's like, but who are you keeping that might have been a factor or maybe has been kind of under the radar? Like, there's a lot of players who step up as sophomores to juniors to seniors that might have just been a little timid behind the player. And I always just think that's such a funny, like, negative, I'm a negative person, a negative way to be like, oh, we lose everybody, or they lose everybody, they're going to be so bad next year. And it's like, but what is that opening up, like, with those players gone, what's opened up for other players to step up? And I think a year in the scheme of a kid's development is a lot, and a lot can happen in these summers of club into the off season. And like, we started club practice, and I love that first day of club, just like I love that first day of tryouts, when that one player is just like, holy crap, like, something clicked with you, or at tryouts for the high school season, you've really been working hard in the off season, and they stand out. Or in the club season, all of a sudden you're like, wow, you've really, maybe you made that team that you didn't think you were going to be making. Maybe you were brought up in the middle of the season and you started kind of like making some moves, and then you're able to kind of show up in a different way, a little bit more confidence. Maybe you got your license, I don't know, and all of a sudden you're able to just kind of become a little bit more confident of a player, and a lot can happen in a year. So I want to try to find a nicer, more positive way to say of like, we lost everybody. It's like, I get it, when you lose 11 seniors, that's a big deal, but like, at the same time, what gaps are being filled by players that you might not expect?
Yeah, and it'll be, if you really look at, if you're a fan and you're trying to figure it out, your coach, look at who has good JV teams, who has good prep teams, or a good 14U team 2 years ago, or 1 year ago. Those are the kids coming up. And, I think there's a lot of good talent that's going to be returning and coming up. And I think I'm excited for February next year when we start doing the Clueless section deep dive. And I don't think we were completely wrong. I don't think we were exactly right. But a lot of the teams that we felt were going to be good ended up being good. There was certainly some weird ones, some off the radar ones, or some ones we thought were going to be great that weren't. But
I'll start with giving first, too soon to tell. I'll say I'll put Benilde higher than I did this year, because
Girls?
Yeah, Benilde girls needs to be
we all put them
higher than I ever thought they were. No one from Benilde girls calling me clueless, and clearly I was. So they were like I'm not going to call them a Cinderella story, but I slept on them. So they should have been in our DMs being like, no, you need to
No,
pump
they
us
move
up,
in
I
silence.
guess. I don't know.
They move in silence.
Maybe they liked that. Maybe that's what gave them an edge.
Maybe.
Before we kind of talk about what's next for, down the alley content, speaking of the off season, we have kicked off Team 36, our club practices. We just had a little play day with Titan and some other clubs and teams kind of put together in the area. Awesome event yesterday. So shout out Ted and Mitch for putting that on. But we're starting to kind of plan for next year. We've got a lot of, obviously down the alley things we want to do, but down the alley really does run from and kind of through Team 36. And that's kind of, the lacrosse community's way to kind of help us as lacrosse coaches and whatnot to, keep this thing moving and stay involved in the game, outside of just the high school season. So, off season opportunities are kind of, what we do, really the other 9 months of the year through Team 36, through SDP training, and other various projects and, ideas that maybe we have one week and we just throw it on paper and see what happens. So obviously our season is underway here this summer, but Ted, I think you and JP may have thrown some posts out there. I think we have tryouts coming up. I maybe a teaser of, I don't know if anything's finalized on programming, but at least when do we have tryouts for the 2023-2024 Team 36 season?
Yeah, we're looking our tryouts are the last week of July. The younger guys and last week of July, first week of August. So the younger boys, youth boys, 2027 and down, they are on Wednesday, July 26th. And there's multiple time slots based on your age group, your graduation year / grade. Then the high school boys and girls are on Sunday, July 30th, in the afternoon. Again, check 36lacrosse.com/tryouts for these times, depending on your gender / grad year. And then the youth girls, 2028 and down, correct, Katie? Are on Wednesday, August 2nd. So about a week's worth of time there. If you are someone who's interested in Team 36, you should definitely come to tryouts and check it out. It's, it's a way to kind of see what we do. If you feel like you vibe with Down the Alley, the crew at Down the Alley, we're the same people when we're coaching our club teams. We're the same, that's who runs it. So if you think like what we do is cool, or you vibe with us on the podcast, we'd love to see you at tryouts. Even if you want to just come to the tryout, check it out, and meet us, or you want to talk to us or see if we're really as clueless and idiotic as you think we are on the podcast, we'd love to have you there. As far as programming, we got some fun travel trips, coming up. We're going to do something a little more east, maybe something a little west, maybe some Midwest. Definitely our goal is to make, make players the best version of themselves as they can be. And a lot of our players end up being contributors on their high school team, going on to, play in college if that's what they want to do. But if you're a player that wants to travel and play in tournaments and then also have a full off-season training program to prep for the high school, I would say Team 36 is definitely for you. So if you have any questions, DM us, email us, call us, whatever. But open to anyone who wants to try out. And obviously
we're really open to having those conversations too. Like, we get it as people who listen. It might not be like, we hear a lot like, I'm really new to this. We're happy to help you kind of navigate the scene and try to find what's best for you and your kid to really get better. And I always like to say, like, honestly, it's just the best investment to kind of show up at the spring tryout with confidence and knowing that you were able to like get some stuff done, get your stick in your hands of the off season, so that come April of next year for high school, you're really going into that tryout confident and growing your skills. All those things your high school coaches say to do, this gives you an opportunity and a place to do that.
And speaking of coaches too, if I know a lot of coaches listen to Down the Alley, I would be more than us, we would be more than happy to have a conversation with you about if you have specific players and you're not really sure about what we do. We would love to have a conversation with you, and not every kid in your program is going to be a fit for Team 36, but there might be someone in your program or a couple players in your program that would benefit from the programming that we do. And I know we have a lot of coach supporters in our program, and would love the opportunity to chat with you about our program to see if there is a few players that might be a great fit for Team 36.
I don't have a ton to add. Great breakdowns by both Ted and Katie. A couple things to add. One, every club does things differently. We run things differently than X, Y, and Z club down the street, and down the other corner. That club's going to run a little bit differently as well. Not saying but we run it better or worse, but I think we run things a little bit differently. And I like how we run it. A couple of things to key in on. We're very, very multi-sport friendly. I would say 90% of our club players play another sport. We're in the state of hockey. We get it. We have a lot of hockey players, a lot of football players, a good amount of basketball players. We kind of get it all, right? So we're a very multi-sport friendly club. Another thing, I would put our training program, SDP program, up against anybody's, any other club, or any other training organization in the state. I think that's our bread and butter. If you're looking to get reps in the off season or have opportunities to get reps in the off season, I would highly encourage you to check out our programming. Like Ted touched on, the travel component. I think it's a really fun piece. Yes, as you get to the older levels, there's college coaches and recruiting and whatever. But regardless of all that, the experience of playing club, traveling, meeting players from different organizations and cities across the state. Our Prior Lake kids year after year playing with Chan kids. They're going on each other's boats. They're going to each other's grad parties. They're going to each other's birthday parties. They make friends outside of.
They become roommates in college.
We've had that multiple times. You're making friends outside of, just Prior Lake, or just wherever you're growing up. So I think that's a really cool component. And then these players are playing each other in the high school season, and you're dabbing each other up after the game. So, I think it's just like Down the Alley community, the club and kind of Team 36 community that we've built, is unique, and it's boutique. We call it kind of a boutique club. We're not a big box store. And we offer a boutique service that, I know us three and many others are proud to stand behind. So, that's all I have to add.
Yeah, great breakdown. Like I said, if you're interested, sign up / reach out. Would love to see you all there, and stay tuned. I don't know if we're gonna do weekly podcasts here in the summer as we're traveling, but we definitely will be. We're definitely gonna have our fall event again this year in October. So high school teams, boys and girls, look out for that. We're kind of in the planning stages right now, but it'll be like a 1-day Sunday only play day thing like we did this past year, with content and all that kind of stuff. So that will be something to look forward to for Down the Alley kind of sponsored events. And hopefully there's more. We have a lot of ideas. We got to kind of figure out what would be the kind of the best route to take. There's only so many hours in the day. So, try to maximize, all the things we want to do and make it the best product we can. But thank you to everybody. I know we said it last podcast, but thank you to everybody for giving us the opportunity to do this and following along and giving us your opinion. And without the fans and the players and the coaches listening and being engaged in what we're saying, we don't really have a podcast and we don't get to do this. So heartfelt.
And honestly, all the hate too, because when you hate, we're aware of what's going on. At least it brings awareness to us.
We've been wrong. And so good or bad feedback, right? Positive or negative takes, like or dislike, it all is part of being, in the media. And we appreciate it all. And it's been a really fun following new teams, getting to meet more people outside of our, small communities that we coach in and live in. So thank you. And, we'll be back. I don't know when we'll be back. Maybe we'll do a special episode from Salt Lake City. Maybe we'll do some food reviews. We will have barbecue at our fall tournament. So if you play Team 36, you're going to get good barbecue in the fall. So I don't know. We live one day at a time, I feel like.
Another thank you to the sources. There's a lot of people. We're the figureheads of this. But we wouldn't still be doing this, and we would not be at this high of a level. How high of a level?
Are we even at a high level?
how high of a level that you think
I don't even have a microphone.
That might be, that's up to your variable. That's up to your judgment. You can be the judge of that. However, we wouldn't be on any level if it wasn't for all the sources helping us that are mostly nameless. However, and they're active listeners, they'll hear this. So thank you for the work that you do and for, the content and the notes and the breakdowns that you help provide behind the scenes.
And even though we won't probably have episodes, the Instagram will go. Maybe we'll have a blog post up or something that grinds our gears. And
I'm hoping and we've had a couple of requests already. I'm hoping we can get some interviews, this off season. Will it be every Friday? I'm not going to guarantee that.
I'm not going to guarantee every Friday either. We're traveling.
Yeah, no. So with the travel schedule, it's going to be hard to pump these out every Friday. However, my goal this off season is to get some great interviews with current and kind of, former college lacrosse, Minnesota college lacrosse players, as well as the staffs across the state. If we can do more of those, leading up till next season and kind of get storylines from this last season. It was tough to line them up, every week for everybody. It's just, everyone's playing every single night. So it's tough. So hopefully we can get some Minnesota lacrosse staffs and Minnesota lacrosse players on the podcast this offseason. And hopefully we're planning on a bigger and better Coaches Summit event as well this offseason. So that won't get launched for a while, but keep an eye out for that. Again, we have big plans. We have big ideas. But it takes more than just us three to make it happen. So we're going to do our best and keep her moving in the right direction for everybody. And with that,
the 2023 season has come to an end.
Season 3.